Good morning, Professor Rajeswar Rao. I say Professor. The August gathering, particularly from various business schools, the participants from both industry, academia, senior, learned colleagues, very good morning to one and all. I'm really very happy to coordinate this program from the Association of Indian Management Schools, AIMS. We are really happy to state that over 33 years ago, a glorious and highly impact-making body called Association of Indian Management Schools, AIMS, a network of management institutions offering postgraduate courses, was born on 27th August 1988 in Bangalore as a non-profit making society registered under the Karnataka Societies Registration Act of 1960. As an independent networking body of professional development of management education in India, AIMS takes pride in having nearly 800 top-class institutions like IIMs, ISB, ASCII, Xavier institutions, Wellington Institute of Management, Narsi Monji, Jamnalal Bajaj, ICFI, MDI. I can keep the list on and on. And many management departments of universities as its members. It is one of the largest networking bodies of business schools in the world. It is the official representative of Indian management schools in India as well as in some important international forums. The major activities of AIMS, of course, the policy advocacy role. One of the major activities of AIMS is its policy advocacy role to safeguard the interests of management institutions in all respects. The president of AIMS is an ex officio member of the Board of Management Studies of All India Council for Technical Education. AIMS has been the thinking of having more say in the formulation of regulations by AICTE and MHRD relating to different categories of management institutions. Another important initiative of AIMS is annual Management Education Convention. On the basis of national competitions, selections, etc., the following prestigious awards, which are in the shape of citations, medals, are presented during the annual convention. Number 1, AIMS V School Innovation Award. Number 2, AIMS ICFI Best Teacher Award. Number 3, AIMS Ramaswamy P. Iyer Best Young Teacher Award. Number 4, AIMS Best Case Award. Number 5, AIMS Best Student Paper Award. Number 6, J.L. Batra Best Research Paper Award. And AIMS National Management Week Award. AIMS RCM Best B School Director Award. Apart from all of them, the most prominent one is the Ravi J. Mathai National Fellow Award. This award is the flagship award, which is also bestowed during the AIMS National Convention, that is annual convention, to the management educators and professionals for achieving a high level of distinction in their respective discipline. And apart from recognizing and felicitating the important and the people who have done a lot of impact, the AIMS also conducts the admission test called AIMS Test for Management Admissions, ATMA. And AIMS actually every year financing the various activities of business schools, maybe sponsoring the national level conventions, workshops, seminars, and apart from that, AIMS is also conducting regularly the case study and case development workshops. Apart from all of them, AIMS is also conducting webinars to reach the maximum. And AIMS is governed by the executive board, the president, treasurer, and other important portfolios. And currently, we have the president, Professor Ajit Singh from Guru Nanak Institutions, Mumbai. The treasurer, Professor Parakalkar from SPPU, Pune. And the AIMS is having executive secretary based at Hyderabad. We are being supported by the important people and important officials of the AIMS. And here, we are all here to have a session on demystifying the design thinking. Instead of me talking about the concept, the demystifying design thinking, we have very, very fortunate to have a person who is from the industry, though he was an industry professional, but happy to have him as an academic interest also. A few words about Professor Rajeswar. I call him professor because he has our professional expertise. He brings in a unique combination of creativity, process, compliance, and global methodologies, which helped him evolve into a firm believer of the tenet, inspiring everyone to do things they never thought they could. Fantastic quote. Challenging the status quo, driving innovation has been his greatest strengths. Mr. Rajeswar was rewarded for the past 3 decades of progressive management of global technology and business organizations across various geographies and cultures at CXO level. Mr. Rajeswar's unique ability to articulate the strength of core values, vision, purpose of an institution at the C level has helped him build large technology and IT services businesses that have created consistent, significant shareholder value. Mr. Rajeswar also brings in diverse and deep experience, expertise on global strategy, design thinking, a strategic initiative for active differentiation, balanced scorecard, enterprise business excellence, Baldrige, EFQM, and CIIXM. Leadership, mentorship, setting up frameworks for achieving sustained leadership are his forte. Mr. Rajeswar, for the past 5 years, has trained about 200 plus independent directors on strategy and balanced scorecard. He has been associated with multiple Ivy League firms to train and mentor their senior middle management teams on strategy, managing change, entrepreneurship, and leadership. Friends, really, we are privileged to have with us today Mr. Rajeswar as the distinguished speaker on the design thinking, particularly the demystifying design thinking. Because many people think that design thinking is only for manufacturing. Design thinking is only for a particular, cause or a purpose. But I had the opportunity to listen to him in one of the sessions organized at our Sharda University. I really went through a very, very favorable and positive change after listening to this session. I'm sure everyone will appreciate and everyone will join me in congratulating him after the session. Friends, I am really very happy to invite Mr. Rajeswar to start his presentation. Rajeswar ji, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prasad, and all the distinguished audience for joining on a Sunday. I know this is a very important day to spend time with families and friends, but apologies that I'm intruding into your personal space. but I can definitely promise that the end of the session, you definitely carry away a few tools and methodologies and a way of thinking. And I can definitely promise from my own personal experience that design thinking has changed where the way I look at solving my own personal challenges and also addressing some of the questions and the problems even the family members come up with. So let me share the screen with the presentation, and we'll take it forward from that. Just let me know in case you have any challenges on the video or the audio part of it. May I request everyone to confirm whether they are able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. This session is all about trying to address and demystify what design thinking is. There are a lot of myths around design thinking. People believe that design thinking is for a product or a service, but the design thinking is a way of life. So design thinking has kicked off from the D School in Hasso-Plattner Institute at Stanford. I myself got certified at the same, and I'll share you some of my experiences and understanding about the design thinking with all of you. So the next 60 odd minutes, so hopefully we should finish the session by 12:30, 12:45. So over the next 60 minutes, I will cover the philosophy of design thinking, why, what, and how of design thinking, and in what way the design thinking is making a difference or a world of difference to the businesses and the way they address their business challenges, whether it's on strategy, whether it's on implementation, whether it is on how they read the market and how they read their competition and their customers. So I promise at the end of the session, you will definitely have a different perspective of this problem solution paradigm. The reason I call it as a paradigm because this is an unending complex story. We believe that we understand the customer, but sometimes what happens is that the product or the solution just doesn't fit the customer. The structure of the presentation would initially, I'll start off with the current context. Why are we facing the challenges, what we are facing? I'll try to address the core of the everything we do in our business and personal life. Is the problem well defined? Do we always jump to the solution way before the problem is defined? And what is the role of the customer in the current context? Are we taking the customer for granted, or are we taking our own product or a service for granted? When we talk about businesses, I talk about every business, not necessarily a profit-making business. I also talk about the academic institutions and the research institutions, where today the role of design thinking and the role of the institution and the student relationship is being redefined world over. We all face this situation, especially with the next generation at house. And what is that situation? We often find ourselves, our kids, the next generation often saying, hey, I'm getting bored. I'm bored of everything around me. I'm bored of watching the TV. I'm bored of going out. I'm bored with the food. I'm bored with the dress. I'm bored with everything around you. Even the colleges are boring. Even the subjects are boring. Even my friends are boring. Even the society is boring. And people have often misused or abused the word called bored. Peter Tuhi, a famous psychologist, has said that honestly, the boredom is a misnomer. It's just a grab or a generally used term to describe a behavior which is either a frustration or a surfeit. Either the person is feeling depressed about it, disgusted about it, there's a lack of association, or what we call it as indifference, and there is apathy. And Since they are not able to express one of these, they generalize it everything as boredom because they feel disconnected and they feel alone. And what Woody Allen has said that, and we all feel it every day. I don't know what I want, but I exactly know what I don't want. Especially when you go to, at home, there's always struggle between the mother and the child. Oh, do you want this? Do you want that? The child will say no. And the mother will ask, what do you want? Actually, I don't know. And, I personally love this movie. And what Chuck has said that if you don't know what you want, you'll end up with a lot of things you don't. That's how we do this whole, we go to the market, we go to the mall, wanting to do something else, we end up doing something else. Because we don't know what we want. Many a time, from my own personal experience, I have visited a mall for just a 5-minute job. I ended up buying a 2 or 3 or 4 bagfuls of goods, which I don't even know why I bought it. So the challenge there is something fundamentally is missing in this whole ecosystem. And even businesses are facing this because the customers are getting bored with what they are getting from each one of us. The products, the services, even the students attending the colleges. It's becoming more and more. If I talk to any student across, hey, so how is your college? They say, yeah, बहुत boring hai. I told, what do you mean it's boring? You joined your dream college, you joined your dream subject, and after a month or 2, you're saying it's boring. So what is it, we are referring to as boring? If you talk to the businesses, even businesses say, oh, there is a customer attrition. Why? The customer has been with you for last 20 years. They are happy. You're all doing customer satisfaction surveys and you all have been presenting the data to the board, to the shareholders, everybody saying, hey, my customer satisfaction surveys has actually hit all-time high. So if your customer satisfaction is high, then why do you think your customers are getting bored and walking away to something else? I think the problem is that of abundance and zero uniqueness. There is too much of everything around us. So that means a customer is getting a similar product or a similar service or a similar experience from everybody around us. So there is nothing unique about us anymore. And the problem of abundance is absolute lack of uniqueness. And that uniqueness, if it is missing, then the business will get stagnant. And that is exactly where the challenges are today in the world. Whether it's in academic institutions, research, business, especially in businesses, everybody is expected to be consistent. Everybody is expected to be predictable. And that's the situation the business is facing today. If you look at any of the, the brokerage calls or the analyst calls the board has, they're expecting, hey, can you predict your business for the future, next 2 or 3 quarters? If I know what my business is predicting, I will exactly do what I am doing today. And all along, being consistent and being predictable was celebrated as excellence. But the downside of it is that consistency has incubated absolute stagnation of ideas. There is no new idea because nobody wants to disrupt the board. Nobody wants to do anything which is experiential or experimenting in nature. The whole philosophy of experimentation mindset has been killed, or rather it has been restricted to one corner, and everybody is made to believe that, hey, you just follow the standard operating procedures, try and make your behavior to be consistent, try and make your behavior to be predictable, let the creative work being, kept with certain set of people working in labs, and rest of you are not creative. And what Aldous Huxley has said that consistency is contrary to the nature. Of course, human beings are not expected to be consistent like robots. But unfortunately, with the industrialization, this is what has happened. It is absolutely contrary to the life. The only consistent people are dead. When I say people, it's the businesses. We have seen Nokia, we have seen we have seen Nokia, we have seen Motorola, we have seen Kodak. There's so many examples of businesses who were very consistent in their excellence, but at suddenly one point in time, everybody got wiped out. And the reason is that they did not give due attention to innovation and creativity. In the process, everybody has taken the customers for granted. My own personal experience, when I do my own consulting projects, I just don't go and solve the problem. Sometimes, my customers, they get really upset with me and say, hey, we called you to solve the problem. And it is very counterintuitive to say that I'm not here to solve the problem, because invariably, I personally believe that the problem I'm asked to solve is not the actual problem. The reason for the problem is not stated, and nobody has even bothered to go under the skin to find out why are they facing what they are facing. Why is the business getting stuck? Why is the child in the room getting bored? Why am I getting bored when I have everything in the room? And when you look at, it's usually the symptom we try to solve, and the symptoms will come back after 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. And the customer will come back to you and say that, Rajeswar, you have not solved the problem, or you have put a temporary fix, which is of no use. So I think we should stop looking at the world as, oh, there is a problem and I have to fix it. I still remember, my association at Infosys, where I was for almost 16, 17 years. In one of the review meetings, somebody told me, the only word you have to take out of the dictionary is, there's a problem out there and you have to fix it. When you start looking at a problem as an opportunity or as a challenge, the whole paradigm of solution problem association changes. And today, the whole problem definition has been more accentuated because there are far too many changes happening around us. And these changes are driven by the rapid change of technology. Today, technology changes, every weekend. Somebody's coming up with a new product or a solution with a new technology. The rate at which the businesses are getting outdated and redundant are very fast. And past is no guarantee future. Everything is as of yesterday. So one of the challenges in strategy making, when I go and sit with organizations to defining their strategy, I think one of the biggest challenges is, how do you define a future? I think as a nation, we have gone past the 5-year plans. The whole planning commission is gone. And only reason is because nobody can define the future. And therein lies the opportunity, because if the future is so undefined, you can actually define your own future. So, from an adversity, you are facing a situation which is to your advantage. One of the biggest, need of the market today is the multidiscipline, and multidiscipline is a new specialization. You cannot be a micro specialist in only in a one field and try to address a problem which is so interlinked, because the nations are globalized. The convergence of technology and domain is now complete, and you cannot be a domain specialist without technology, and you cannot be a technologist without a domain. A doctor is also as technologist like a scientist. An academician is also as technology oriented like any other engineer out in the market. One of the challenges also all along was the skill development was stagnant. So today, the world is asking not for degrees, but they're asking for skills. They're asking for certifications, not degrees. Show me that you have the skill. Show me that you have this competency. People are actually getting confused that I have a lot of data, but people are confusing the fact that data is not knowledge. Data is not information. Data is not makes you a skilled or a specialist. I think somewhere, if you look at the way we are facing the world is with a huge volume of data, we tend to believe that more the volume of data we carry with us, the more skilled we are and more knowledgeable we are. But the problem is that it's just a data. We don't have the right tools and the attitude and our understanding about the market to convert into a profitable and a competitive business proposition. The world is also need to understand how to handle a VUCA world. It was all good to be consistent and predictable because it was very safe to generalize. Now the world is demanding innovation as a part of your business. It doesn't matter how big you are. Every large organization and small, they're facing a challenge from the smaller organizations. Every large organization is facing a stiff competition from the startups. Every bank is facing a challenge from a technology startup, which need not be a bank, but they understand the whole concept of a customer behavior and how technology can deliver goods and services which a traditional banking cannot do it. The medicine profession is also facing a huge onslaught of technology, which is fundamentally rewriting the patient-doctor relationships. So technology is here to stay, and every one of us has to figure a way out to adopt technology to our advantage. The only way we can be in business today, especially the academic institutions and the research institutions, is like figure a way out to disrupt yourself. Figure a way out to enable the students to manage the VUCA world. How do you enable the students to manage the VUCA world when the way we teach, the way the content is written is very, very standardized and I would say generalized, but it's still focused on creating the basics and the fundamentals. So how do we do that? I think the way we look at things is the traditional ways of solving problems is a part of history. I'm not saying that it's not there, but putting all the money to solve a problem in a very, very heuristic way, applying a principle, applying a methodology, or applying a sort of an algorithm to every problem we face and trying to generalize all problems under one umbrella, I think that is not going to be the future. Every organization still has to be fundamentally be tactical and operational. There's no doubt about it. But a significant part of it has to be strategic, which is primarily driven by an experimental mindset. Every institution has to start experimenting more than what they are doing today. So what is an experiment? Experiment is trying to come up with an idea which nobody has seen it. It's all about questioning the status quo. Can we do these things differently? What do we need for future? Whatever I studied today, will it help in the future? Because the future is very, very undefined. How do we address a world of undefinedness with a static set of knowledge and tools we have? The questions we are going to find are very, very undefined. So the solutions would be very, very clumsy and very, very, I would say, abstract. You can never find a solution as a true solution where 1 + 1 is 2 or a 2 + 2 is 4. People will always say that 1 + 1 is 2, provided there are other conditions which are met. If the conditions change, 1 + 1 is not 2, but it could be 11 or it could be something else. Somewhere the businesses and the institutions have to build in and encourage a very high curiosity quotient. A curiosity quotient is all about trying to look into the future from where we are and from the position where we are. It's okay not to be right every time, but the curiosity index has to go up. Because I still remember in one of the organizations I was doing consulting, one of the board level scorecard and the CXO level scorecard, I have created a scorecard item called as the curiosity index. And people were suddenly taken for a shock to say, hey, how do we measure it? I told, I'm not going to put a number to it. How do you put a number to the curiosity? All along our life, if we ask ourselves, when was the last time we were the most curious? I think every one of us without fail would say when we were a child, even before going to the school. Once we started going to the school, I think we lost our curiosity. We all have become very cerebral and we all have become very methodical. Somewhere we lost that curiosity index and we are here where we are today. The traditional ways of problem solution mindset is all past. It's history. I won't say it's gone and buried, but it's changing its gears significantly. And first step is taken that, yes, schools have also bring in the elements of design thinking in the school, because the schools are expecting the kids to start improving the curiosity mindset and preparing themselves to a world which is more undefined, very complex, very volatile, and very ambiguous. People need to be trained to manage ambiguity as if their own friend, as an opportunity, but not like a risk. And how do we do that? And this is what we face today. Statistics says that 75% of the organizations, wherever we have sent the customer satisfaction survey, we all have got a 4 out of 5. But only 30% of the customers, when you talk to them in private, they say that, yeah, I gave them a 4 out of 5 rating, but actually, I'm not happy. Why? Because they got bored. They believe that there is a disconnect between the products and the services the provider sells. There is a huge difference between the stated experience and the actual customer experience, because nobody knows what the actual customer experience means. And same thing applies to us, because nobody's saying, I am doing it because the others are doing it. I am doing it because it is me who is doing it. And I go there for my experience. And design thinking is also called as social technology to address this gap. And the gap is all about the empathy gap. So if I were to, use one word to solve the current challenges of businesses and institutions and the consumers, it's all about bridging the empathy gap. And how do we do that? That is what the design thinking is all about. We have taken customer for granted. There's no doubt about it. We believe that customer cannot go anywhere because this is the only thing they have today, whether it's a product or a service or a school or an institution or a workplace. They said that we have tied the customer in a way they just can't get out of it. Today, the next generation, another 5 to 8 years, the entire generation is going to be replaced with a new gen. 2025, all those who have started working in the 80s will start retiring. So the new generation experience is very different than what we went through it. And the gap is not about the attitude, but the gap of the design of the approach and the solution thereof. Customers are demanding the chair, the whole role of problem solution mindset. They are saying it is my problem, but the solution is yours. It's not my solution. So I want something which is my solution. So the customer has become a singular. The customer has put themselves in the center of the ecosystem of this whole business. Say that if the business has to solve my problem, then I have to be at the center of your business. And how do we do that? That's where this whole design thinking came into being. And David Kelly and Bernie Roth, two mechanical engineers from Stanford, they created this model and methodology called as design thinking. So as we jump straight into the design thinking tools and methodologies, we have to keep without any doubt that it's all about addressing the fast changing consumer behavior. Whatever we do today, even in our personal life, whatever we do today, we are doing it for a consumer. It can be your child, it can be your parents, it can be your spouse, it can be a relative. If you are in the business, it's your stakeholders, it's your consumers, your investors. Everybody is a consumer. Whatever you do, if it is consumed like anybody other than you, they are a consumer. And there are huge factors which are influencing the consumer decision today, which were not there in the past. And one of the biggest decision maker today is the role of technology and the role of how an experience the consumer is going through today. It can be situational, it can be personal, it can be psychological either, it can be social. So when we build a product or a solution, how many of us we actually take account of each of these and say that this product will help you to address 20% of situational, 30% of your personal, maybe another 10% of your psychological, and the rest are social factors. Nobody does that because that doesn't come as a factor when we do the designing of the product or a service. Because customer, when they buy a product or a service, they don't just for consume. The whole definition of consumption has changed its paradigm and say that consumption also means recognition. Consumption needs something which converts my tangible into intangibles. Consumption means it gives me benefits which to a problem which even I have not stated. So the consumer has become very, very complex, and it's a job of the designer of the product and solution to take a completely different step and a storytelling approach to sit with the consumer and give that personalized experience. So all along, we all felt that design was just a noun. But everything has been redefined, is more like a verb today, and it toggles between a noun and a verb always. So at any point in time, if you look at a design, it's not just a finished product. It is the intent behind a product is also part of the design. When you create an intent, what all activities have gone behind that intent is also part of the design. When you are talking about a set of activities, the question is what were the options you had and how did you zero into that final product or a service or a system is also an equally important part of a design. So when your consumer is looking at the product or a service, the consumer is actually looking at the remaining 1, 2, and 3 of the design process. They're also looking at the design of your intent. They are also looking at the design of the various prototypes you have gone through before you finally came to the final outcome. So they want to be part of this entire journey, right from the concept to the finished product. The whole journey is a design now, not just a final product. And in the design, it's all about addressing the house. Oh, I have a challenge. How do you approach it? Approaching itself is a design. Interpreting my problem statement is also part of the design activity. What is the ideas going into? How do you feel that what I am going through is you are addressing it? Don't give me a product because it has worked for someone else. It will not work for me. The question is, I want to be part of your experimentation so that you are giving me the choice to be part of an experiment. I go through the process. So I believe that you are actually thinking about me when you are designing a solution. I'm not asking a point in time solution, but I'm asking about being part of an evolution. Statistically, it is proven that a product or a service sticks with the customer as long as there is an emotional quotient to the product. The customers will stay with you the longest, not because the product is good, but the there's a lot of emotional stickiness attached to the product. And what is that emotional stickiness? Is that you as a provider has involved the customer all along the journey in this whole paradigm of problem solution mindset. The whole problem solution designing is about human centered design. The first step of design thinking is it has to be human centered design. So who is the human here? There are only two individuals. One is you as a designer and the consumer as the other human. Both are equally important factors or elements in this design thinking journey. And what is that user? You can replace a user with what is called as a user experience. My experience is way different than even my family member experiencing the same food. I still remember the day when the color TV came in. It was just for a few hours a day. Everybody, me, my parents, my sister, and everybody in the house, we used to sit and watch the Krishi Darshan, whether we like it or not. Because that was the only thing we had. But today, there are 2 or 3 members in the family having 3 Fire Sticks, 4 TVs, 3 mobiles. Everybody wants a different experience from the same device because everybody's preference are differences. Their expectation from that entertainment is different. Even if we all decide to watch a movie, it's not necessary that all 3 of us would like to have the same experience, because technology plays a significant part in delivering that experience. The design of it creates a new consumption to the user experience. When I talk about the people, it's the personality, it is the behavior, it's the social status, it is the personal preferences. Everything factors in that people element of the user experience. Of course, the business part of it. Why am I doing what am I doing? What is the primary vision, mission of your organization or institution which drives you to be in the business? Your business also refers to the competition. It's your pricing, it's the reliability, it's the validity of the product what you're keeping into the market. So when you're talking about a good design thinking institution, when you are talking about technology, you're talking about design, you're talking about people, you're also talking about the business elements which all add up equally to create that user experience. And how do we do that? What are the factors we need to consider for doing that? The first factor is how do we solve the unstated problem and the latent needs? Because as I said, you are not looking at a problem the way it's stated. You need to look beyond the stated problem and say, look at the emotions and the reasons for that problem rather than the problem. And that can only happen when you become closer and closer or come closer and closer to the customer. And what is that problem called from design thinking parlance? It is called as the wicked problem because it's wicked. It is ephemeral. It changes its colors and shape and size. It is not consistent. It won't be repeated. And once you replace a stated problem with a wicked problem, the whole problem solution paradigm fundamentally changes because a wicked problem doesn't have a clear solution. It might be satisfied today, but tomorrow the same problem will need a different answer. Because it's a VUCA world, it's volatile. By the time you decide the problem, you analyze the problem, you come with a solution, the world has changed. The context has changed. The customers are experiencing unforeseen outcomes. So how do you address a challenge of an unforeseen outcome? But it's still an outcome. It's still a valid outcome, but may not be the most appropriate outcome. Is your product or a solution changing the behavior in a way that you are enabling your customer to face the the situation where the solutions are not clear and the outcomes are very unforeseen. Many other problems are interdependent. That is where I say, we all need to have multidisciplinary skills. A technologist need not be or should not be only a technologist. A technology has to be a financial services or a retail or a discrete manufacturing or a healthcare or an insurance. Because that's how you appreciate the customer's business and the pain points. The world is socially complex. It's no more a single phase or a lateral or a linear problem. These are multidimensional problems. If you look at your remote, your own classic remotes, end of the day, it's just a remote. The biggest factor which is influencing these changes is ability to focus on intuition and simplification is one of the biggest challenges of a design. If you can achieve from left to right on the remote design, today we are able to find products which is absolutely functional, simplistic, and intuitive, is only because these institutions have applied the principles of design thinking. Design thinking principles are being used to design every product and services around us nowadays. And how do you design that? The answer lies in the way the problem is defined. The answer is also evolving as the problem is evolving. And the problem is not one fixed problem. Problem is like an onion. The more you peel it, the more the problems you are getting it. So you can never say that, oh, there is a fixed problem, or there is a road, there is a pothole, you fix the pothole. No, life is not like that. I think the beauty of the today world is that people have stopped worrying about, is the solution perfect? No solution is perfect, which is a beauty. People often say, hey, then how do we solve the problem? Don't solve the problem. Let the problem evolve, and so the answer is also evolving with you. Nowadays, you find that every other week, you'll have a software patch coming and hitting your smartphone, whether it's an Android or an Apple. Because they don't want to create an operating system or a processor which stays there for next 10 years. It doesn't work that way. Things are changing rapid and fast. So the world is all about fast and furious. So gone are the days when, the problem was simple and the answer was simple. Because it is very simple. You learned an algorithm in the college, you come for the rest of your life, you go on applying the same algorithm, you continue to solve the same problem. But the fact is that the underlying reason for the problem has never been solved. In the new world of design thinking, you are actually solving a wicked problem which has been undefined, because it doesn't follow the classical principles of a problem. So as a designer or as a practitioner of design thinking, you have to sit with your customer to come with the first set of solutions or first set of answers to the problem. And that works like a catalyst. And after the first solution is implemented, more problems they evolve. That means the customer is actually opening up and sharing the underlying reasons for the originally stated problem. You might consider it as a set of problems also, but I think, the customer is coming up with more experiences and more reasons for saying, hey, oh, I have a problem. People will say, hey, I have a headache. Headache is not just a headache. Headache, you don't take a crocin or a paracetamol and say your headache is gone. No, it's not necessarily a headache because it's a headache. It is that sad experience the person is going through emotionally, which needs a different answer. In the absence of any other word, the customer says, oh, I have a headache. Basically, they don't want to talk to you. So similarly, I think the wicked problem is a cyclical behavior. The more you get closer to the problem, you are actually unearthing the latent problem and the unstated problem. Because the outcomes are not known, There's no one point answer. It's very complex, socially complex problem. In a tame problem, there is a good answer or a bad answer. But in a wicked problem, there's no good or a bad. The whole philosophy of you have a succeeded or failure is no more in the dictionary. The only answer you can get is that the solution is fit or not fit, appropriate or not appropriate. It is not appropriate. Doesn't mean that your solution is bad. It doesn't suit me, but it might suit somebody else. So you cannot take a Boolean state of a solution saying you have failed or succeeded. That Boolean state of declaring a situation as a success or a failure is no more. With every act, you are actually going through an experience where you will face more problems and it will come back to a solution. Again, it will come back to another problem. So in a wicked problem is that no stopping rule. Don't stop the customer coming back to you with a say, hey, I started using a product. After 2 days, I'm getting a different problem. It has nothing to do with the product, or it has everything to do with the situation of the customer. Because the problem is not understood in the first place, the solution would change. And how do we do that? The only way to do that is to stop looking at problem as a tame problem. Start looking at the problem as a wicked problem where there is no right answer. And always you're working toward the most appropriate answer at that point in time. The advantage of that the customer will always come back to you whenever the situation changes. At a point answer, after one or twice, the customer saying that, hey, I'm always getting a problem. Anyway, I'm always going to Rajeswar. Let me find somebody else. So there is a customer attrition if you start looking at the problem as at a point in time problem. Look at it as an experience of a context. Look at it as an experience of a situation. You are empathetic to the customer saying that your experience changes because the situation has changed. So whenever the situation changes, please come to me. I will always come back and give you a solution appropriate to the situation. And how do we do that? We can only do that by adapting and adopting the principles of design thinking. The principles of design thinking says that it is a right mix between the analytical and the intuitive thinking. Because intuitive thinking is all about focuses on simplicity and appropriateness, rather than talking about reliability, safety, and because you can't give them a lifetime guarantee on reliability and safety. What happens if the situation changes? You don't redesign the entire product all over again, right? So design thinking is the right mix between analyticals and intuitive thinking. So you are bringing in the elements of research, elements of creativity, elements of innovation, and element of knowledge that the situation will change in the future, and you are factoring that situation in your product or service design. And how do we do that? Your methodology should be able to capture the underlying meaning, motivation, and beliefs in a way your product encapsulates that in your product or a service design. You need to figure a way out to involve the customer's underlying thoughts and feelings while using the product or in the likely scenario of using the product. And why are we doing this? Because you're not addressing a point problem, but you are actually creating an experience which was actually unstated. The question you might ask me is that Hey, the customer doesn't know what experience they might get after using the product. That's exactly what as a design thinker must be doing it. You have to take the customers into the newer experiences, which will actually unearth the unstated problems. And benefits of design thinking, you put the user first. User is your source of money, source of revenue. He's the guy who puts the food on the table every day. What happens in a situation where you have a fantastic product but no user? Versus you have a situation where there are potential users but you don't have a product or a service. Design thinking redefines the problem. It is significantly collaborative. Solutions are very, very intuitive and simple. Nowadays, the solution, the more you complex, nobody buys it from you. People are looking for simplicity. And in designing, in the world of design, we often say that the most complex thing is to do things simple, which is counterintuitive, but that's a fact. Because if you design your product and services better around the customer and the problem, your businesses are assured for future, because your business models, your internal processes are designed to handle the VUCA world. Your organization is so flexible, it can adapt the changes rapidly. And you make design as a part of your internal processes and your culture. A few 10 design principles. I'll share the presentation with all. You can have a look at it. It's all about being innovative, aesthetic, then unobtrusive, long-lasting, eco-friendly, very user-friendly or usability. You're honest with the customer and say it works only for a point in time. Is through to the last details, because it's all about simplicity and it's all about being viable and possible. You're not talking about anything impossible here. So we get further deeper and into the design thinking, and design thinking is all about a simple 5-step process. You might say, hey, it's so simple, but the underlying philosophy is so complex, it fundamentally changes your own way of looking at yourself first. The first step is all about empathy. Second is define. Third is ideate. Fourth is prototyping. Fifth is testing. Again, this is an iterative process. Empathy is the heart of design. And for a good heart, you need to have a noble soul, because soul and heart, they go together. You can't differentiate between yourself and the customer in a design thinking world. Both of you play a very, very significant role in design thinking. You can't differentiate. Sometimes, the customer takes precedence, sometimes you take precedence. When I say you are the provider of the technology, the underlying, the paraphernalia of defining the solution. In the empathy situation of design thinking, the whole process is cognitive and emotional. But every step of this whole journey, you are actually experiencing a tangible product or a service. You are experiencing. It is tangible, but it's still emotional and cognitive. That means the process involves your senses. When you do that empathy map exercise in design thinking, you are not only recording whatever the customer says, you are also trying to understand the thought behind why they are saying it. Why? Why are you facing this problem? Is your definition of problem the right definition? How different is your context of business and situation versus the rest of the world? So there is a thought behind. The moment you get into the thought, You're actually getting the realms of emotional, a journey of a customer. So how do you feel this solution? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel related? Do you feel associated? Do you feel, you're getting a very, very a sort of empathetic experience while using this product? And how do you use this product? Maybe the right product in the wrong hand. Maybe you are, along with the product, you gave them a 500-page user manual. It may not work. I don't know, because the product is so complex. I don't know how many of you have bought an iPhone recently. Did you ever get a 500-page manual to start operating an iPhone? It's one of the most complex, technologically advanced device on the planet today, from a user perspective. And today, even school kids use it, even though they don't know how much of the cognitive technology, the artificial intelligence, the processing capabilities has gone behind making an iPhone. Because the way you use it is so intuitive and simple. The product is an amazing product. So in the journey of empathy, all you need to do is not only record what they say and then walk out, but you have to do the remaining three of you should think like a customer on behalf of the customer. That means you are putting yourself in the customer's experience. You should also feel the same thing like a customer. You should also do it along with the customer, or you allow the customers to do it and take a feedback and then come back to the whole cycle all over again. It's the congruence of the designer and the user with equal importance and weightage creates that empathy in the product or a solution. So here is a curveball to all of you. I think most of you are from academic institutions. Let's take a class on strategy, or let's take a class on management. You are teaching the principles of Peter Drucker to everyone. There are 250 students in the class. In what way the same topic can be taught in 256 different experiences to the 256 different students sitting in the class? Can we do it? Why not? Because all the 256 students in the class are there because of 256 different motivations, situational context, family background, their personal career needs, objectives. Not necessarily that everybody should be treated the same and seen the same and measured the same and declare, hey, out of 256 students, 200 have got B plus, 5 have got A, for some X number have got D. We got used to it. But is the world looking at that? Who knows? The person you have failed could be the next big business guy, and the rest of the 200 people could be working under him. So the question is, how do you bring in that into the context is one of the biggest challenges of design thinking. We have to accept the fact that it is an iterative work. It is a never-ending process. But that is the only way a business can remain relevant into the future, because you're constantly evolving, you're constantly rewriting the problem, you're constantly challenging yourself, you're constantly adapting to the technology changes, and you're constantly addressing the changes in the consumer behavior. A student of 2022 will not behave the same as in a student of 2025. How do we know that the subjects we are teaching today are relevant for managing business 10 years from now? So people are looking at, hey, even 4 years of engineering is sometimes a long period of time. By then, technology would have gone through 2 or 3 generations of change. So some of the topics we teach today are not required. So design thinking is an evolutionary process. You need to look at empathizing with the consumer behavior in a way, consolidate what you do and don't know. It's okay to accept that you don't know, even I don't know, because The challenges of future, what you are facing today is exactly same as mine. Maybe I have a slightly better advantage on the understanding what are the future technologies are going to come because I'm a technologist. But other than that, I'm in the same state of knowing the future. So the best way to handle the future is to both of us collaborate. So empathize to me is almost the 80% or 90% of doing this whole design thinking. If you can build your skills, your knowledges, your competencies, your attitudes towards deepening this whole empathizing the customer or empathizing the consumer will actually help you to be a great design thinker. Define the customer value proposition. I'm just sharing a small tool for you to practice. When you always work with your customer, take your product or a service and say, hey, for the problem you have stated, these are the benefits, features, and experiences. This is how your needs and the wants and the fears are met. Fears are all about the future. Fears is what happens after 2 years from now. What happens if technology changes? What happens if this happens or that happens or that happens? So there are multiple scenarios which the customers know their businesses very well than you, but you know the technology better than them. The intersection of these two creates a value proposition. So how do you merge these two is a key element of doing design thinking, especially on the empathy side. Empathy is also can be used to create a business canvas. Sorry for the spelling mistake. I'll correct it and send it to you again. We all have done business canvases in your business. And what's your business partners? You look at the entire ecosystem of your business. The problems you are facing today, the challenges you are facing today, could be not necessarily yours, but your key partners, your resources, the way you have defined your value proposition of your customers, your relationships, your channels, the technology, what you use, the way you are delivering your products and services, everything is a area which needs intervention using design thinking empathy principles. It might so happen that everything is working fine, but your cost structure, revenue structure could be the bigger issue. You fix it, suddenly your business looks well. So the question is, how do you could be successful today, but will you be successful tomorrow? So, in empathy, if you can answer the fundamental question that, oh, I have failed today, will I be successful? If you can tell your customers that you are neither a failure nor I'm giving you a guarantee for success, I'm only making you relevant and probably creating the best relevance vis-a-vis your competition and enabling you to be the same into the future, you are actually working well on your empathy gap. So your mindset has to change, which is probably the best ideation organization leveraging the principles of design thinking, because this is where David Kelly and Bernie Roth have actually set up this ideation lab. Every time you look at the problem, don't jump into solution. It's okay. Come up with a divergent set of ideas. Absolutely divergent. No hold barriers. It's like madness. Actually, and unfortunately, I'm just taking a 1-hour session. This entire design thinking is a 2-day course. And 2-day course, the most fun part of it is the divergent set of ideas with an absolutely divergent set of people in the room. You might even have an artist, a musician, a dancer, a comedian reacting to the same problem, which might actually be some of the best solutions you might ever get. In the divergence of ideas, you need to always come with the attitude of a beginner's mind. Means You are absolutely unbiased, completely unconstrained. You are thinking literally wild. All along we have been told that, hey, don't tell stories, come and just do the job. But today design thinking is all about storytelling. Imagine a situation, because future is as bad to the customer like as bad as you. Always get into that eternal loop of ideation, inspiration, and implementation. You have an idea because there is driven by certain inspiration. You implement it. It might work, it might not work. In the process, if it is not working, you will actually get a better inspiration and you go into that infinite loop. And one of the absolute hallmark of design thinking, which is also being used in agile methodology in engineering world, is that you are ready to fail early and often. When I say fail, your experiments won't work. It's okay. Nobody's going to hang you upside down or penalize you for doing those experiments. Because if you don't experiment, if you continue with what you are today, you will end up being completely out of business by tomorrow. That is guaranteed. But it's better to do experiments and figure a way out. At least you are knowing that by doing these things, you will fail. Because designer mindset is all about dreaming wild ideas. Take to market. It's okay. It might not work. What is the guarantee? By the time you figure out that this product will actually work, the world has moved out. Moved us way beyond it. So the emotions are okay. You might be excited and elated today. Tomorrow you could be seriously, disgusted with your experiment. But whatever goes down has to come back. So the life of a designer toggles between hope, insight, and confidence. The only confidence you need to have today is that today I am at the high. Tomorrow again I'll come back to low. But again I will come back. So that confidence is what is called, as Bernie Roth says, it is called as the confidence or creative confidence. Creative confidence is ability to go from hope to insight to confidence. So the tools typically used in the empathy side of design thinking are user personas. How do you do effective interviews? How do you get like an onion peel, go on peeling the situation from a customer, but the customer is very comfortable to open up their cognitive and the emotional side of the problem. Use that empathy map very, very significantly. There are other tools, other tools of requirements, they can still be used. You can still use the, Stephen Covey's 6 thinking hats, and the other tools are already there in the market. Every tool to gather a requirement are absolutely appropriate. But only thing you need to worry about is, are you using it empathetically? Are you extracting the best of the customer experience for you to play a role? And in the process, you are constantly creating the customer journey map. It's an experience. When I talk about the customer experience, it's all about the various touch points where the customer can go wrong, where the customer is right, and what is the experience the customer is going through. You record every step of it. And that information is very, very crucial for you for the product design or the service design. Let me touch upon a few more on the mindsets, because empathy for me is almost like 80% of design thinking. You're always reframing the problem. Don't solve it and then walk back and never to look back, because the heart of it is your curiosity mindset. You're always reframing the problem. Why you're reframing the problem? The context of the problem is changing. You are actually adopting radical collaboration. When I say radical collaboration, you're actually bringing people who could be sometimes unrelated to the problem. I still remember during the leadership days at my work, We all give 360-degree feedback, right? Oh, I select my own set of people, my bosses, my peers, my juniors. I ask the questions, everybody gives me 5 out of 5. I feel excited. During my annual appraisal days, I'll come back and say, hey, I got the best of 360. And everybody gets it. But in one of the experiments, just to understand me, a third party 360-degree agency, they started calling my family members, my friends, to actually figure out whether, how is Rajeswar and who is Rajeswar for the same set of questions. And you won't believe me, the answers were fundamentally different because everybody wanted to say good things about me. But when you talk to my family members, you'll actually get the real picture. So, radical collaboration is one way to get the extreme conditions of a particular situation. Because when you're talking about the latent needs and the unstated needs, you're actually looking at the extreme conditions of that situation. Don't be biased towards action. It is good to be experimenting. That means, yes, you want to quickly experiment, but not necessarily that should be the only experiment you're doing. But always follow the process. What is the process? You are ideating, you are defining, you are prototyping, you are testing, again coming back and reframing the problem. Be ready to come up with prototypes almost like every month. Because that is what, in the agile world, we call it as a sprint. A sprint is about for 4 weeks. You take an idea, you develop a prototype, you release it to the market in 4 weeks, see how the people react, again go back, again after 2 weeks, again there's a new version coming out. But imagine a situation where you have an idea, you develop an entire product for 1 year, you come into the market has moved on. So the entire investment for 1 year of people, money, raw material, time, everything is gone. This is exactly what I call it as fail fast to recover fast. It's not necessarily truly a failure. You learn it as you progress it. So from a design thinking, and also the design thinker, what is the challenge which everyone faces? There are 3 fundamental challenges. One is the people challenge. Will they ever buy this product because situation is changing, the product is changing? Will the customer always come back to me and buy the same product or a similar product? Is it real? Is it the opportunity what we are talking? Is it real? Is it tangible? The second more important thing is it worth it? Because if I buy a product or a service, I might pay even 10,000 rupees for it. But what happens if after 6 months, the whole thing changes? Do I have to spend another 10,000 rupees again? Is this fundamentally viable model to spend so much of money like every time I face it? Even though I have money, is it technically feasible? Do I have technology to deliver the challenges of the future? And these challenges are real. A product design or a service design should always be worried about these fundamentally VUCA situation where the people change, the business change, the technology change, the the experience change. Then how can we ever come with a product or a services which has a longevity? In the people dimension, we should always involve the customer and we should figure a way out that are they ready to pay for it? Because whenever they face a situation, we are there to solve it. They are not the only set of people who are facing it. The entire ecosystem faces the same challenge. Is the product or a solution, is it desirable? That means, is it appropriate to the situation? It may not be the best, but it is the most appropriate for the situation. And do they really recognize the need for it? I'm not saying it's a requirement, it's a need, because the needs will convert into a want and finally it gets converted into a desire. Address your current need because the needs are always changing. And how do you make a product or a service desirable? You try to address the elements of motivation and the ability to adapt to that product. The more you're closer to the motivation, the product, the consumer would love it. They feel it closer to their heart. And it's so simple and intuitive. More than they owning it, they'll start desiring it. Even though they don't have it today, they look forward for to have it because they feel it's connected motivationally. It gives them that sense of recognition in the market. It addresses the last step of the Maslow's hierarchy, the self-actuation state. They take you to the level that is, oh, if I get this product or service, I'm done. That means I have achieved my larger objective of life. Technically, let technology not be the limiter. Don't say that since I don't have the technology, I can't make it. The more you say that, the customers will get knocked off and say, hey, there's no point because I don't have a technology to deliver. If it's like this, yes, I understand your problem, but I don't have technology to solve it. Will the customer be happy or delighted or completely knocked off? Customers can never go out and say, I don't have a technology to deliver that product or a service. I don't have that infrastructure to deliver. You go to the local shop and say, you ask something very unique. There are two situations. The shop says, sir, you are the only person who is asking it, and I don't have it. Next time, you're not even going to them for the simple things. Customer says, sir, you are the only person who is asking it. Nobody has asked it. Just wait for 10 minutes. I will figure a way out and get it for you. Tomorrow, the person or the shop or the outlet becomes your most preferred, because whenever you go there for the most unique requirement, you will be met. And in the waiting period, the provider is actually treating you like with the ultimate respect, because the more the unique needs the customer is servicing you, you become the biggest ambassador and the advocates of that customer. Is it worth it? Of course, when you create that business canvas and you show them the value proposition, look at the way they are able to address the needs beyond the stated needs. Look at the competitive advantage you are providing them because you are able to address the problem in much different way than the competition. It's absolutely business worth it, including the ROI, including the payback, including the business models. It's a sustainable business model. Nowadays, if you see some of the business strategy plans which I review and I talk about, it is that customers today are stopped talking about solving a point in time problem. The providers are saying, I don't know the situation, you don't know the situation, I know something out of it because I'm a technology provider, or I'm what I will commit to you is that I will reduce the risk of future for your business. Whatever the risk you are facing, you just pass it on to me. I will take care of your risk, whether it's a technology risk or a process risk or a compliance risk or a legal risk. Don't worry, I will handle it. You focus on your business, rest of the risks, I will take care of it. Perfect business model. The more the risks you are transferring it to the provider, you are just focusing on the core of your business, which is servicing your customer. Whatever be the technology, after 10 years, oh, Rajeswar will take care of the technology change. Let me focus on servicing my customer. Perfect. It's a great business proposition and it's a great value proposition to the customers, because I'm able to meet the hidden needs of the future. I'm taking care of the risks of the future. Design thinking is a congruence of heart and soul. It's all about emotion. It's all about practicality. It's all about reality. It's all about rationality. It's all about practicality. It's all about feasibility. And it still talks about your emotional and cognitive desires. It makes you feel different in front of your competition and in front of your customers. Like in addition to empathy, design thinking also talks about innovation. And the congruence of these three elements, will always create a unique proposition, because everything else is changing. So are the people, so are the businesses, so are the technology. And every time you come with an innovation, and innovation becomes your second, I would say, behavior. I'll give you some example. So here is a case. So here is an old man, a senior citizen, wants to go out to go for a walk. The walking stick always either stumbles or fumbles. The person falls. The son, the daughter-in-law, the son-in-law, the daughter say, hey, why do you want to go out and hurt yourself, fall down every time I call an ambulance? Just stop going out. That is not a solution. So somebody, one day he goes and meets a design thinker and say, but this is the problem I have. I want to go out, but every time I go out, there's always an accident. I have a problem. So what do the design thinker do? They empathize with the problem statement. They won't say it's a problem. It's a challenge. It's a situation. The person has to go out. Then they start making the notes. They sit with them, do a requirements, get behind the problem statement, look into the reasons why the person wants to go out. Why? The problem has been redefined. I want to go out to meet my own colleagues, the other senior citizens. I want to have a coffee with my childhood classmate. I want to go out, create a list of things I want to buy from my grandchild. Oh, there are many things I want to do. So you started with the problem of a walking stick. You are redefining the problem and say, it's all about experience of going out is more important than going out. Or just the walking stick. Then I sit with them, come with multiple ideas. How do we want to go? We create those experiences using virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, this technology, that technology. I create that experience to that old senior citizen and say, can I do this for you? Can I do this for you? Can I do this for you? Which one you feel better for you? And we come up with an idea of set of divergent ideas and finally converge it into a prototype. I create a prototype and give it to my customer to go on, test it in the market. What do? They flaunt it. They take pride in it. They feel that they are involved in the process of creating that prototype and say, hey, I was with a designer. I gave them ideas. They did a great job. They gave me 5 options. I picked up this one. So how do you feel it? Some will say, oh, wow, what an innovative idea. Somebody says, hey, can you have this? Can it be IoT enabled? Can it be GPS enabled? They know where you are, how you are. I can track you on your mobile everywhere. Lot of ideas will come out of it. End of it, the person feels elated, respected, social status increases. Hey, can I also have this product like you? Suddenly the market increases. And the cycle goes on. How can we know what we want unless we see the options?
Exactly.
It's like my wife going to a sari shop to buy a sari and she doesn't know what she wants to buy. Suddenly you find, oh my God, this is exactly what, oh, I wanted this color. I always wanted this color. I said, how can, but you never told me that you always wanted this color. First time you were telling me. She said, no, oh, I saw this. Then I realized, this is the color which is close to me emotionally. how can we know what we want unless we see the options what we want? I think if this is one slide, if I want to sum up for the entire design thinking, it's all about this. Let's look at how Apple has adapted design thinking and became the #1 technology company for the last so many years, and probably the largest and the best company ever to work for. Steve Jobs says, customer don't know what they want. Absolutely true. You're not telling them how to run their business, but they don't know the problem they are facing, because the problem they are stating is not necessarily the problem. Nobody wanted a computer as a tool. It was unimaginable in the 70s. But he created a product which even today, they love to have a MacBook with them. Whether they use it or not, I don't know. Sometimes many people, they carry MacBook just to flaunt it as a status symbol, because the product itself represents that culture, that ethos, that social status, that desirability factor. Yes, I have arrived to own a MacBook. It becomes a personalized experience for everyone who buys a MacBook or an iPhone. At Apple, everybody starts with the design from people need and want, not limited by technology. Because I don't know how many of you sit through, I definitely sit through the annual Apple presentation at the worldwide conference. Whenever an Apple launches a product, they always launch a new technology with it, because they say that the moment I create the idea, the technology has to follow that idea. They will make the chip, they'll make the infrastructure, they'll make the materials to suit the product. They won't limit the product because technology is not there. That's how the technology becomes the feasibility part of it. The job of an engineer is to find a product which is more creative and innovative. Technology will come and deliver it anyway. Design is very, very well thought through, beyond fashion. Never create a product which is a commodity. It's like it's easily available and anybody can buy it. No, it has to be exclusive. After all, an iPhone is an iPhone, iPad is an iPad. There's no big deal about it. My wife says, just because you're carrying an iPhone doesn't mean that the quality of conversations go up. It's still the same nonsense you talk, right? But the fact that, somebody's carrying an iPhone, it suddenly changes my social status. Look at the smallest of the details. I still carry the package of the first iPhone I bought almost 25 years back. It's so innovative, so intuitive, so functional. I've never seen a package of a simple phone with so much of details gone in just for packing. Because that's the customer experience. They encourage people to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the process until they found the key to the underlying principles of the problem. Underlying principles of, look at the Apple ecosystem is all about customer experience. Walt Disney makes cartoons. There are other cartoon movie makers, but the quality of movies Pixar makes today is mind-blowing. It's way different in terms of visuals, the audio, the experience. You watch a Pixar movie versus the other movies. Why? They're able to capture the customer's attention by creating a product or a service which they have never experienced in their lifetime. In the process, they have, the whole problem has been redefined and say, whatever they do, everybody wants to be like an iPhone. Right? If everybody wants to be like an iPhone, then they have redefined the competition in the market. Like every B school wants to be like an IM, and every IM wants to be like a Stanford, and every Stanford wants to be like somebody else. So One important element I want to put forth for everyone is that design thinking helps you to not just face a competition, but also helps you to redefine the competition. You become a competitor for yourself. Don't run the same race faster. You run a different race where everybody else follows you. That's how you create a new market share. That's how you create a new market from the same consumer. Just because you have a product doesn't mean that the world has to produce new consumers. No, the consumers are there in front of you. You have to create a new need for them. More and more you strive towards answering their existing needs, you're only doing the more of the same. A dosa is a dosa is a dosa. It doesn't matter where you buy it. If I have to sell to be the world's best dosa manufacturer or a samosa manufacturers or samosa sellers, I have to create a new experience out of it. Design is just not what it feels. It's all about how it works. How you start deploying it, using it, because by virtue of using it, you're actually creating a new problems and new definitions for it. The moment you saw an iPhone with a touch screen 20 years back, today everything is adapting to it. Did ever Steve Jobs believe that today most of it will work like a touch? No. But he knew that experience is going to trigger almost like a generations of ideas when they start looking at touch screens. And what is that, in terms of, so how it works, it only works on the fundamental principles of simplicity. And fundamental principle is ultimate sophistication. If you can create a product which is so intuitive, even a school kid or even a toddler who has never gone to the school is able to handle an iPhone and enjoy the experience, exactly same as a guy who is running a $1 billion business, a computer scientist who is studying or working, or a senior citizen who is enjoying the time under the sun. Everybody enjoy the simplicity as the ultimate sophistication. So this is a classic example of how design thinking creates an iterative customer involvement. Every time product launch, the only requirements Apple gets it is from the customer feedback. They work very intimately with the manufacturers and the customers. Their partner ecosystem is so brilliantly arranged. The hardware and the chip manufacturers, they are ready to manufacture the next best chip moments the requirements are frozen. And customer believes they get to feel that my feedback has been taken care and I get to see that feature in the next release. It's a beautiful product which evolves. Has iPhone ever made the world's best product? The answer is no. The best is yet to come. Why? The fundamental principle of design thinking is applied. Fear of failure has been taken out of the window. There's nothing like a failure. They constantly do experiment and it's okay to fail. Maybe 1 in a million will work out. Let's do the remaining million. Individuals just don't have any sense of fear because rather they are, a liberated set of souls where they have a failure immunity. A man may die, the nation may rise and fall, but the idea will remain because it is boundaryless. It's not a propriety of any one individual. Organizations have transformed themselves fundamentally because of applying design thinking. They knew that they are as good as their competitor. The only way to survive is to create their own competition, because the more you get compared, you're as good as them. You have to be different. Your businesses have to be different. Your market has to be different. Your customers have to be different. And as long as you are able to manage the future of your customers, you are always there in the business and be the number one. Pepsi did it, Infosys did it, IBM did it, everybody else has done it, including today Swiggy, Zomato, Grofers. Of course, they have changed the name. everybody, and Samsung. Today, Samsung is number 2 or the closest to number 1 is only because they have applied the principles of design thinking in the way they create the product and the experiences. And everywhere it is multidisciplinary. Nobody is unidimensional. Nobody is actually taking the customer for granted. Especially for people, people who are attending these sessions who are from academics and research. I think in your pedagogy, you need to bring in the element of design in every subject you teach and every experience you go through it. And I would like to see, honestly, it's my personal, desire to see that there are more and more experientials in the classroom talking about the undefined problem rather than, whatever is being taught all along. Bring in that element of human-centric design thinking in the curriculum and in the practice sessions and in the how the experience of the students go through. Try and merge multidiscipline. I would like to see, universities which have multiple colleges like law, engineering, medicine under one roof. They all should be working together to create that multidisciplinary exposure to the students. Design thinking, to summary, is all about an iterative process. It's human. It's human-centric design. It is empathy, define, ideate, prototype, test, and then come back. It is evolutionary. It is cyclical. Because IBM has its own version of design thinking, but still the heart and soul of design thinking is still the same. It's the customer. You observe the customer, you reflect upon what the customer say, you make a prototype, go back to the customer, and then do all over again. So design thinking is a mindset, it's a cultural change, it's a shift in the way you look at your customers and talk about them. Final takeaways, it's a problem solving a different way, emphasize on collaboration, it's all about intuitivity and creativity. Completely knock off failures and success from your dictionary, it's all about experience. And finally, you go and implement it back. Don't worry about what has worked or not worked, but eventually you create your own future. Thank you very much. And I overstepped by 11 minutes. Apologies for it. I'm more than happy to take questions. Let's take a few questions and wrap it up for the day.
Yeah, please stop sharing, sir, so that we can get. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Friends, it's a very, very elaborative. It's a kind of experiential learning. Mr. Rajeswar has rightly mentioned the students are expecting kind of engagement, active engagement, and experiential learning. Only through that methodology, I think we can keep them very much engaged, very enthusiastic, and the learning, true learning, will happen. Very happy to have a fantastic session, sir. There are so many people participating from various fields, maybe academics and educationists, and most of them are industry professionals also, and many academicians also from the industry. They have equal number of service in industry and then back to academics. One among them is Professor Y. Manohar, worked there in Visakhapatnam Steel Plant, RINL, for more than 30-35 years, and came back to academics and doing a lot of very exciting work. Like that, we have business deans.
Prasad Garu, once, just a second. My association with Mr. Manohar goes back to his days in Rourkela, and actually I have worked under him when he was with the Training and Development Center at Vizag Steel. Namaskaram andi, nenu meeku gurtunnana ledo kani I still remember you a lot, sir.
Yeah. He is very, very productive. Always, that empathy, what you said, can be attributed to him, sir. And absolutely, one more thing. There are deans, particularly from Wellinkar, Professor Anil Rao. In fact, Wellinkar Institute of Management, I could see long back, 4 years back, I could witness the design lab. Academic institutions took up from, I think, industries like, Infosys, where you worked. They are the first person, they are the first institute started this design thinking lab physically we could see that, how the students get experience. Like that, there are so many people from the gaming industry. We are very, very happy, sir. Very good number of participants and different fields. It's a right mix. Instead of saying, diversity, I say right mix is attending the session today. Yeah, go to the participants, Dr. Anil and Dr. Vinod Damblekar. Please unmute yourselves and please speak out.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Prasad. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Continue, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm very happy to listen to Rajeswar Rao today. It's been an amazing time to listen to his session. And more important, as Prasad sir just mentioned, that Wellinger Institute of Management has been pioneer in design programs in India. And since almost 9 to 10 years now, Dr. Uday Salunke has actually got IDEO to V School. We had workshops with them. And at various intervals, we also ensured that the workshops happened for train the trainer for faculty. All of us use design thinking in every way in our campus in Bombay and Bangalore. More important is we have a course called Business Design and Innovation, which is a 2-year PGTM program. Wow. And as Professor Prasad did mention, we do have an innovation lab, incubation center, a prototype lab. And as you rightly mentioned, it's very important that, any learner has to quickly go and do a quick prototype. And you also mentioned about the design thinking steps, and the process is just very, very important. The design program which we run is very unique in the sense it doesn't have specializations. And customer insights, as you rightly mentioned, empathy is top one agenda for all of us. And that's how I believe, a lot of things can succeed only when you are towards that zone of empathy. Thank you very much for your deeper insights. I really enjoyed your session. Over to you, Professor Prasad.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Anil. You are a fantastic, leader, professional, and always very, very, forward-looking. Dr. Uday and your team, I'm really happy to, have you amongst us today. Now let us listen to Mr. Vinod Damblekar. He is a CEO and founder of Mantis Consulting. He is an expert in conducting games for understanding business better, and also the strategy games. Now, over to you, Vinodji.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rao. Professor Rajeswar Rao was very broad and diverse and took it into issues such as customers and businesses as well. For me, I have started noting down whatever he said and try to connect it up with my impressions, and I have put them on the chat board. I hope they make sense to other readers as well. For me, empathy, as was ultimately disclosed by you, that it contributes to 80% of design thinking. Empathy means research by looking at the problem from the customer's point of view, through his eyes, to look deep into and to feel what he feels. And if that kind of thinking can be virtually extrapolated into not merely business education or businesses, it could actually, I actually wrote at one point in time my impression suggesting that it could lead to perhaps more deeper than what we call democracy. That means focusing on the individual, not on niche markets or groups of people and so on. It would be a very powerful approach to solving problems across the world. I mean, it could also kill the wickedness of wicked problems and solve problems better. As we always know, defining the problem in it is the solution by itself. Thank you, Professor Rao, for a very nice presentation today.
And
thank you, Vinodji.
And Dr. Vinod, just to add to your observations, that are absolutely right. I think some of the issues here is the way we look at the consumer provider paradigm for the next 10, 12 years. I look at those consumers and the providers still sitting in the classrooms today. They're either going through either an engineering or a medicine or a law or a management degrees. I think if we can create them this no-fail mindset, that, it's okay to do an experiment and go out in life, which to some extent is visible today, because if I go to any college, most of the students, they say that, initially I want to run a startup and I can always get a job. Naukri to kabhi bhi mil jayega, because I know I am skilled. But I would love to look at the same problem in a different way. And if it works, it works. So today the world is encouraging people with that experimenting mindset, and they're ready to take the plunge. And you are absolutely right. Tomorrow, you may not have very large enterprises, actually employing thousands and lakhs of people. Rather, you'll have lakhs of smaller enterprises employing 5, 10, 20 people, and everybody is enjoying whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
Yes,
I interjected, but yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's okay.
You.
Yeah, that is that okay? Yeah. Dr. Manohar is online, sir.
Yes, please, Doctor. Sir, namaste, sir.
Yeah, Manohar garu.
Namaste. No, it was so delightful to hear Mr. Rajeswar Rao that he remembers that.
Absolutely, sir. It's something
I was there at Rourkela Steel Plant, and we have been together.
Yeah.
Enriching each other's learning. No, it is fantastic and wonderful to see Mr. Rajeswar Rao, you doing such a comprehensive, such a fantastic, such all-encompassing, I demystifying the design thinking. I would have attended a couple of workshops on that, spreading over 1 or 2 days on in the ages of ISTD Hyderabad and here.
Yes.
But the kind of, particularly, the slides which you prepared, they are very meaningful, very attractive, and very effective in laying the foundations of the design thinking. So that has been just wonderful. Now, finally, I would like to leave an issue of me. We worked in the industry, and then on the other side of the supplier side, that is academic side. On the academic side, without, I'm not castigating any aspect on the academic side, but I'm yet to see an institution, a university where the undergraduate or postgraduate class, more than 50% attendance is there. Please note it. 50% attendance is there. I'm, referring to not what the attendance you project to qualify the people to sit in the examination, blah, 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 etc. Actually, what does it mean? It means if there are studying 4 subjects in a semester, that means 25% of their education inputs, it's not there in the students. Maybe they are studying, they say, and all that, but that apart. Now, it is this output which is going to the industry. Now, industry also typically, particularly in the COVID period, what I have seen, whosoever is appearing for the online interview, he is getting selected. Mostly. I may be exaggerating. But then this guy who attended only 25% of the classes and still he gets selected and he lands in the world of industry. Now, what kind of design thinking you can expect from him? Or is it that the kind of programs which we had at Rourkela Steel Plant, those programs are so effective that whatever has been lacking on the academic side, they are giving more than that and they are really performing well. This is the question. I'm not, asking any answer, but any view on this. which means, to me it looks that means the whole industry is working at 30% of the capability as far as human capital is concerned. And still we are doing so well. Now, if only this side can be further improved, golden results will be there for all of us. That's my view.
Let me take that question from Mr. Manohar, because I have been on the both sides of the fence. And from a perspective of an industry, which is primarily a knowledge industry, let me take it IT and allied services, where the biggest asset is the human capital. Yes, you are right, because today the work is so robotized. I would call it as robotized. The challenge comes, not getting into an employment. The challenge comes, can you retain your employment for the next 10 years? Because if you look at on one side, there is a huge demand of talent, so people are getting in. But on the other side, there is also a huge attrition, which is actually hitting the industry, because it is both managed attrition as well as voluntary and involuntary attrition. The people who are not able to scale up, they're actually being asked to go. Second is, people who are talented, they're also finding opportunities to go out and then try whatever they feel they have the liberty to experiment and do something interesting in their lives. So this industry will always go through that cycle of supply-demand mismatch. But I think the bigger challenge is going to come is, like, if India has to be a nation of innovators, if India has to be not just a nation of only service providers, and we need to create the product and services which are innovative to the context of India, then probably the way we educate people, the way we hire people has to fundamentally change, which I see is changing gradually, because the startups are only looking at talent and attitudes and competency. They are not looking at, am I hiring some 30,000 employees or 40,000 employees? They are only looking at people who can bring in that differentiation to the product and services. I mean, I could be partially answering that. Maybe I'll take that question offline in the interest of others. But your question is absolutely valid. And even from an industry, that's a big challenge even industry is facing and trying to answer that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Dr. Manohar. Yes, please.
Sir, thank you. Prasada Rao garu.
Yeah. Manohar garu. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
From Bangalore.
Thank you very much. It's been a very great presentation, and some of us who have been working on this subject also, I think you have given us a new perspective. And I see Dr. Anil Rao too, who has been very deeply into this design thinking and designing new program on the design thinking itself. Sir, I just want to take these kind of practices to academic field. Now we are there, we have a new education policy coming up. We are talking about multidisciplinary education. We are talking about outcome-based education. We are talking about collaboration, all these kind of things. So all this has come through over a deliberation of more than, I would say, 2 decades, because the last time it was 30 years ago, they made a change, and now we are into this. If you really try to integrate our thinking, and we want to also do something new, which is more sustainable, more affordable, and more meaningful to the society as such. But looking at the structure of our education economy, I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the larger perspective economy, education economy itself, at the basic level, at the primary education, the middle education, the higher education. Most of us who are in this audience are concerned with the higher education field. So unless, the kind of integration can happen with the primary and the middle education, whatever that you try to do in the higher education will become temporary and perhaps not so long sustainable, except for a limited period. So the foundation has to happen from the primary education. So if you really want that primary education to be reformed and they come to the middle and the higher education, it will take another decade for them to come up to this level. So today we are thinking of designing new programs, new courses, and developing an outcome-based education. These people, when they pass out, they have to be more useful to the society, all that kind of things. But then basic fundamental has to happen from there. So we are caught between two devils and demons, or opportunities and threats. Like, if we start doing everything right now in the higher education level, the outputs that we bring now, the graduates that we push to the society, may not be all that 100% adequately ready for facing the challenges. There will be some kind of a mindset which has been sort of built over a time. They have come to from that surface to this surface. We are trying to do some making up, whereas after some years, those who go through the new system from the primary level to the middle to the higher education, possibly they are much more prepared to absorb the kind of change that we are bringing about. So me as an educationist, me as an entrepreneur, me as a socialist or a reformer, if you talk to every one of us, take in that context, the challenge for us is that one side, we have to meet the expectations of the society, the regulatory bodies, accreditation bodies, and the kind of things. We will definitely make it because these are all easier things to do. But when we push these people to the society, the outcomes and the kind of impact they are going to create, we are responsible for it. There's no way that we can ensure that outcome, that benefit that reaches the society. We are all in a dilemma. I'm not expecting a straightforward, kind of a question and answer straight away. But this is the thinking that has been, in us for some time. So definitely, I would welcome your inputs and your contribution to this thinking process, sir. Thank you, Professor.
Sir, just one submission from my side is that I think the society and the industry has realized that, that volume game is over. Okay?
Exactly.
I think the time has come for India to be, I'm not sounding very political, but if it has to be true Atmanirbhar, I think we should stop being measured on the global yardsticks of what others are doing. We should have our own system which solves our own problems. The first step towards is to fundamentally change our education policy in a way which encourages 2 or 3 things. One is that their ability to think critically and then analytically. Second is stop being cerebral and process right through, I think if we can create that mindset of you apply the fundamentals to solve an unstated problem. That means you are creating, something like a case study. You give a case study, you respond to it. I'll give you an example. In UK, if you look at the post-graduation exam, which they call it as a PLAB, right in the prospectus, they say that the question and answers, all the answers are actually right, but you have to select the most appropriate answer based on the context which is being given as a problem statement. So if we can bring that element into a primary and secondary education system, then all answers are right. Number one. Number two is that nobody is failing. But if you can able to identify the most appropriate answer to the context I have given, which the fundamentals which have been taught in the class will help you to identify that most appropriate answer, I think we are creating the population of the future, because we are actually killing the creativity and analytical thinking just by creating a system which is rewarding the people who get 99.99 and 99.98 is considered as a failure.
Thank you.
I agree, Rajeswar Rao. In fact, sir, it would be great if design thinkers, are within the faculty and the team members who really get to the students at large, at every area which Dr. Manohar was mentioning, even in corporates for sure. So I think,
honestly, if we can take the leap of faith, and if you ask the students to come up with their own syllabus they want to study, can we trust them? Answer is yes. If they come and say, this is what I want to study, just offer them.
Yes. Ownership.
At least,
that's precisely what NEP is going to get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So out of the 5 subjects, you ask them, 2 subjects you design and we'll deliver it for you. Rest of the 3, we will deliver and you pick it up. I think that's a congruence of both the analytical thinking and the intuitive thinking.
Absolutely. Professor Rajeswar Rao sir, I had a request and I was just sharing it with Prasada Rao sir as well.
Yeah.
Can we do a workshop for faculty members of AIMS?
Absolutely, more than happy to do it.
I think you said 2 days would be good to absorb.
2 days is an ideal workshop. Yes. We can do it.
We can request on the executive board, Professor Prasada Rao being there, and from the chapter, Manohar being there. And I myself also will get involved so that we create this bigger ecosystem. So it will be a good benefit to all.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Sir.
This is the need of the hour. Definitely. Actually, there is a request from the participants also. They are sending me direct message and also in the chat box saying that this kind of sessions are very, very useful. No, not just may not be possible for everybody to implement, at least as a thought process, because thought share, mind share, and market share. Definitely, we can make it a revolution, like the empathetic, developing the empathic mindset and providing the best.
Prasad Garu, if you want that market share and the mind share to happen, you should show them the incentive of wallet share. So the more you do, the more the wallet share you get. There is incentive for everybody to jump in because everybody is getting monetarily profitable by adopting these. You don't. That's how to do it. That's the only incentive to do that.
Okay, done. Definitely, sir. We'll take care.
Absolutely.
That solves Manohar sir's question also, why corporates spend only 30-40% of their time and why the engagement is so less.
Yes, correct.
Sir, on the other side, many of the large organizations are spending almost 10 to 12% of the revenue to retrain the entire curriculum. It doesn't matter, what college you studied, which university you studied.
Absolutely.
You still have to go through that 5 to 6 months of training just to suit to my needs. If that has gone into the organizations, from organizations into the academia, maybe you could have saved the cost and the time and would have done wonders to the industry.
You said it right, Rajeswar Rao sir. In fact, we run a program called Junior Management Leadership Program, where design thinking concepts are also given to the Infosians.
Yeah.
Almost 1,000 Infosians have been trained till now and still continuing. And as you rightly said, these are the people who take the lead positions after joining. I mean, after those lakh and plus join, they choose these people and then train them on different leadership inside. Those like design thinking is one of the important ones. And as you rightly said, I think corporates do keep training to align with their goals, corporate goals. Absolutely right.
Absolutely. Super.
Yeah, Manohar Garu.
Yeah, Mr. Manohar has to.
Yeah. No, I would like to add, this was most meaningful point, which was shot out just now. My conviction is, though I am hearing in various seminars, hundreds and hundreds of them, that academic institutions should prepare industry-ready, inverted commas. It is impossible. Industry-ready people, there are a million industries and there are only 1 lakh education institutions. So preparing industry-ready is a utopian thing. What, both of you had mentioned, Rajeswar Rao and Dr. Anil, that every industry has got its own internal programs. Because every industry has got its own specificities. Every industry has got, whatever you mentioned in design thinking, whether it is customer or process, whatever is different. So the industries cannot depend. Even if you really give, so-called industry ready, industry will not accept. They will run their own program because the needs are different. So that industry ready will prepare is utopian. What is required is whatever basic things are there and whatever advanced changes, etc. The another side, we said the half-life period of education is only 1.5 years. If an engineering student first year what he's studying, after he completes 4 years, he will not be working in that field at all because it's already exploding. So the industry has to always, and the industry is always ready. I'm telling on behalf of that.
Sir, yeah, that's the reason.
I might sound very disruptive here, but what I found a very stark difference between the Western education and Indian way is that the cross permeation between industry and academia is almost nil. I mean, ideally, I would like to see the academia working in the industry for a few years coming back. And I would also like to see the industry working in academia and going back to the workplace so that, there is a constant, I would say, a sort of an osmosis between the industry and the academia on a regular basis. not necessarily on management and consulting world, but even on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, sir.
So that people can appreciate and empathize on the challenges faced on both the sides. Yeah. It's very easy to point fingers on both the sides, say, you are not ready or I am not ready. But tell me, how many engineering students they actually get a good internship in an industry? Very few. How many industry people can get into an academic and say, hey, you don't have a doctorate, you don't have this, you don't that, and you can't teach. I think somehow these are man-made barriers. These are our own barriers to suit our own needs. But actually, if we can break those barriers and make them cross-permeable across, it might do wonders.
Yeah. Sir, I would like to share one best practice when you talked about the industry. They are willing or unwilling to come to industry. One experimentation what we have done. We have opened up our postgraduate program for working executives and the senior executives on a kind of an invitation basis, where based on their background, we will select, and there's a separate committee that goes through and have an interview with them. You have people with 55 plus to even the young managers who are there. They don't have to pay their fees. They have to join the program. It's a separate cohort that they will do. Their job is also to come and teach in our institution to the other batches. A. B. We have opened up a fellowship program, which is equivalent to a PhD program for those who are very senior and they would like to pursue their research program here. There again, we are opening up another stream where the investment on the financial investment on their side is very, very minimal, but the value intellectual contribution that they make is very valuable. So this kind of an exchange, and they are willing to accept our faculty to work in their companies, and they are willing to come and work with us. It is done on a mutual basis. This is an experimentation. We are getting very good response to that.
Yeah, we'll continue this kind of deliberations in the days to come. And I'm really thankful to Rajeswar Rao actually giving a lead for the next session, that is experiential learning. Sir, fantastic idea you gave me. And for experiential learning, there are 4 ways, as I told you in the beginning of the session. Number 1, scenario analysis. Number 2, simulations. Number 3, gamification. Number 4, of course, social media, maybe LinkedIn kind of learnings. There amongst us today, Mr. Vinod Damblekarji here with us. I request him to take at least one session on gamification and scenario and simulations for the benefit of all the member institutions. Rajeswarji, one more thing, Vinodji, Association of Indian Management Schools is a not-for-profit organization working for the benefit of all the member institutions. I'm very thankful to you for accepting of course, with no money in terms, but there is a lot of value you created. Wonderful value you have created, value you have added, and given us wonderful thought. That itself is a great, benefit for all of us. Thank you so much for being with us today and spending your valuable time. You know how difficult it is. I think Rajeswar must have woke up early morning by 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock to catch a flight in Bangalore, reached Hyderabad and attending the session, I think from a different location. I know the challenges. Even I had to attend a wedding. I postponed that because of this session. I know how difficult it is to handle this kind of, difficult and different situations. Even then, we could enjoy the session from Rajeswar Rao and also the great value addition from the speakers, the people, the participants like Dr. Anil, Dr. Manoharji, Dr. Vinodji, Dr. Manoharji, and many other people who are there, passively they are enjoying the session. And there is a message I got from the former Vice Chancellor of Chitkara University saying that this session is so impressive and he is asking me to share the link. Immediately I could share because Mr. Anil is there. He is a technical support for the AIMS, and we have a fantastic team at AIMS Secretariat, sir, under the guidance of Venkateshwarlu ji and his team. Dr. Sunil is there, Ms. Rohini is there. We are all thankful to them for facilitating this kind of support. Sir, Rajeswar Rao, once again, we are thankful to you and we wish to have collaboration with you in the days to come. Vinodji, be ready for the next session. I'm going to send a proposal to my team. And I'm also grateful to my team at Association of Indian Management Schools, the president, the treasurer, other executive board members, and all member institutions and participants. Thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you, my
Great day
pleasure.
ahead.
And have a great Sunday. Thanks for spending time.